acceptable yet for commercial theaters. And some will never be acceptable by masses, by the wide public. There are forms, and we have literature also that is not accepted by wide population, that is liked only by minority of people. So that's normal. The more I mean, the commercial, the cinema that is accepted by the wider public deals more, not I would say superficially, but maybe they're involved, interested more in just action, adventure, and there is nothing wrong with that. That's one area of content in cinema. But then there is also, like in literature, there is poetry. There are small, short forms of literature, and so there are short, much more intense, condensed forms of cinema. Okay, I'm working in the diaristic kind of form. That's not a very popular form in literature, the diaristic form. But it's not something that they would show on television or public theaters. It's interesting to some, but not to all. But that's normal. It's a little bit too much. I put it there only as a poetic gesture, that you are making into some concrete, literally concrete thing. It's not a nation in the sense that France or United States is a nation. It's just a poetic kind of statement with a lot of truth behind it, but it's not identical.
Cinema? What do you think about that?
No, it's not. It began with the very beginning of non-commercial poetic, or call it other cinema, is already with the futurists, and then with the 20s France and Germany. It goes to the very beginning of cinema. My then is already 50 years later from the beginning of cinema. She did not even begin the avant-garde film in the United States. It was the avant-garde, the independence already many before my dinner. Only that she was very active, and she wrote a lot and was a big promoter. So she is very important, but she is not a mother. She's a daughter. She's one of the children who are very vocal and very good of the avant-garde, of the independent. And I don't think she would have liked to be all those terms. She was a filmmaker. She was not an experimental filmmaker. Maybe she would have, she would not have protested the avant-garde, but she wrote or spoke about films as cinema and filmmakers. Only that she had her own style, her own content that she was interested in, like anybody else, any other filmmaker. They're the masters of the classic narrative cinema. Only that Rossellini went out of the narrative. He also made some films that were not narrative. They were films of ideas, like essayistic films on various subjects. Dreyer was interested only in narratives to tell fiction, but in a part of the was. They're the masters. Yeah. But there are only 2 out of 200. I don't put, I just show a glimpse.
Yes.
I mean, in that film, everybody is seen only in glimpses, maybe 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Yeah. What do you call it? A little mini portrait, yes. But, no, Agradecimientos is good art. She represents. Plus, to me, to be so purist that then you have to exclude Chaplin, you have to exclude Tati, you become so narrow, or you would exclude Homer, and you would exclude probably Dante from poetry, or it becomes at some point absurd. So I was in Birth of a Nation. I'm a little bit open. I permit air to come in. I'm not so tight. You know, oh, this is avant-garde. Yeah, this is independent. Yeah. Spielberg is independent. Rossellini was independent.
Exactly.
But the center of that film is still, let's see, there are 150 filmmakers. So at least 100 of them, or 120, are known as avant-garde or experimental. So that the main body of that film, of those, the main majority of the filmmakers that you see. I mean, there are also some distributors. Langlois is there. I mean, he's not exactly an avant-garde filmmaker, but he was part of that nation that promoted, that showed, that supported. So it's open and more complex than just, filmmakers and the best ones. No, I don't do. I did not discover that. It was discovered by Callie Angel, who is the film curator at the Whitney Museum. She analyzed the film frame by frame. She looked and then, because between the camera there is Empire State Building, and there is a window, and there is a camera. And when I was the camera, but I could not see through the lens that that I'm reflected, that I am reflected in the window, and also in some other shots, Andy, whoever, you can see the reflection moving. I was not watching that closely. It was Callie Angel later analyzing the film. She discovered it. I did not. And because there are theories later, you see, they planted themselves in it like someone. There was no, we did not even know that we are reflected there. And we were sitting at the camera was running there, and we were sitting and eating sandwiches somewhere else. And sometimes occasionally I came in to check. So we did not see a reflection at all. Yes, because Dvoskin lived in New York. It was part of us. Ackermark came and studied for a year. She was in New York at Anthology Film Archives, seeing all of the films. She was there. So these are like part of that's what their school. Their school was the avant-garde of New York.
And also the Zanzibar group?
Zanzibar they were totally, yes, I mean, Jacques Renard came to New York, but they created their cinema same time when Andy Warhol, a little bit later, okay, around 68, 69. But we did not know about it because New York filmmakers were very busy. We were busy doing our work, and they were doing their work, and we did not have any contact. We discovered Zanzibar group only like 15, 20 years later, and they were not. And the same, they were discovered in France only 20, 30 years later. They were not that much known when those films were made, the Zanzibar group, during the actual period when they were made. And I have to tell you also that Zanzibar group was discovered really at Anthology Film Archives. And the catalog was prepared, and I organized a retrospective, and then Jacques, and I persuaded Jacques to get all those films. They were not in a group. And then after that, they traveled, they were revived and shown in Paris and in other places. So the revival of Zanzibar group started at Anthology Film Archives some 7 years ago. And who was it? Jadal was also, you see, during the period in New York. He was very much connected to Andy Warhol group. And then he settled later in England. But his early work was done, I don't know where he was. And later he moved to London, yes. And Voskin moved to London from New York. Voskin. Also, he lived in New York during that period. And the Filmmakers Cooperative was established by 2 New Yorkers. This connection is very, very early. Yes.
Yes.
But the real the London group was most active between like maybe 65 and 75. And the terminology, the term underground was popularized by a filmmaker by the name Stan Vanderbeek. He liked that term. But it was, we preferred independent or personal or even avant-garde. We did not like, and we did not use, it's the press newspapers that liked that term. And Stan Vanderbeek liked that term. But the filmmakers did not bracket would go mad if anybody would call them underground or Frampton or any. We were just filmmakers.